Now it's Michael Dukakis night at the Democratic Convention. Also tonight, an assassination plot against Oliver North and rain in the American drought areas.
From the Democratic National Convention in Atlanta, NBC Nightly News with Tom Brokaw.
Good evening. Jesse Jackson owned this hall last night here and on national television. Now Governor Michael Dukakis must reclaim it. And while he does not have Jackson's soaring speaking style, Dukakis does have the votes. And before this night is out, Dukakis will be the presidential nominee of his party. NBC's Bob Kerr on the Dukakis campaign strategy for getting him front and center.
Dukakis came to the convention hall to get a feel for the place where he'll be nominated tonight and give his acceptance speech tomorrow. Top aides say the governor's speech will focus on economic challenges and solving problems, but contain no new proposals. This afternoon, Dukakis made a surprise appearance at a tribute to his wife, Kitty. And after so many months, it was clear they were just hours away from living a dream.
I turned to my bride and I said, well, I think it's for real. I mean, this is happening. And it is.
And in what Jackson called an effort to further party unity, he went to see Dukakis today after Dukakis congratulated him on what the governor called a terrific speech last night. Later, Jackson said he and Dukakis brought their top staffers together.
There's this delicate transition when primary foes become general election friends and allies.
There was concern among some Dukakis strategists that Jackson's speech advocating higher taxes and troop reductions would put a liberal stamp on a convention Dukakis wants to use to move the party to the center. But more important to top Dukakis aides was this salute to the governor.
I've watched a good mind fast at work with steel nerves, guiding his campaign out of the crowded field without appeal to the worst in us.
Like Dukakis, many political analysts see an advantage in featuring Jackson.
I don't think there's a real danger because Dukakis looks good in contrast. He looks like the alternative to Jesse Jackson. He won. Jackson lost. The convention's going to nominate him, Dukakis, and it's going to nominate his selected vice president, Lloyd Bentsen, who is not a liberal.
But what about Ted Kennedy's feature role, a die-hard liberal? The Dukakis campaign was more interested in memories evoked by President John Kennedy's son, who introduced his Uncle Ted. And Jimmy Carter, a president many Democrats want to forget. Why feature him? The Dukakis campaign says Carter's reputation for integrity plays well now in light of the scandal-ridden Reagan administration. Images. Today at a playground, Dukakis' well-known practical frugality surfaced when children gave him a Boys Club t-shirt.
And it's an extra large, which is a little big for me, right? And you got a large or maybe even a medium around. I'd love to have it, and I will wear it very proudly.
Tonight, Dukakis begins to try to use this convention to define himself. A fellow governor, Arkansas's Bill Clinton, will praise Dukakis' leadership and management skills. And tomorrow night, Dukakis' cousin Olympia Dukakis, the actress, will introduce the governor as a sensitive and caring family man. Tom?
Thank you, Bob Kerr. What Dukakis must do now is win back to the Democratic Party the so-called swing voters, working-class Americans who abandoned the Democratic Party to vote for Ronald Reagan. NBC's Chris Wallace is down on the convention floor tonight with a key player in the Dukakis campaign. They're going to discuss a little strategy from here on out. Chris?
Dukakis campaign manager Susan Estridge knows that tonight and tomorrow night offer a remarkable chance to get her candidate's message across. Susan, just exactly how are you going to reach out to those Reagan Democrats?
We're going to focus on the economy, Chris, on our economic future, on jobs and education and health care and housing, and on the fact that Mike Dukakis and Lloyd Bentsen are the team with the experience and the record to build that economic future.
But aren't those conservative, blue-collar, white Reagan Democrats, aren't they going to be turned off by Jesse Jackson's very prominent role at this convention and the kinds of liberal things he's been calling for?
I think not. I think Ann Richards and Jesse Jackson and Mike Dukakis and Lloyd Bentsen are speaking to precisely those Americans about the issues they care about, the economic issues, and providing real opportunity and real growth and making the American dream come true for everyone.
There have also been some very personal attacks in this convention on George Bush. You're going to keep those up?
Well, I think some Democrats and some independents have some real questions about George Bush, but we're focusing on a strong, positive night tonight and tomorrow night.
Susan Estridge, thank you very much.
Thank you.
The Dukakis campaign manager who wants to make the most of her candidate's 2 remaining nights in prime time. Tom?
Thank you, Chris Wallace. here's a quick convention quiz. What name has been shouted from the podium more than any other this week? Nope, not Dukakis, not Jackson, not even FDR, Truman, or JFK. George Bush is the winner, and the loser. For the man who will win the Republican presidential nomination has been getting some rough treatment here. NBC's John Dancy on the vice president's popularity with Democrats.
The Democrats' sharpest barbs at this convention have been launched not at Ronald Reagan, but at the Republican opponent, Vice President Bush, and his beginnings as a son of wealthy parents.
George Bush is a man who was born on third base and thinks that he's hit a triple.
Poor George. He was born with a silver foot in his mouth.
Bush was in Warren, Michigan today, professing to know little about the attacks because he'd been fishing.
4 days in the wilderness is the answer.
At the convention, Senator Edward Kennedy of Massachusetts attacked Bush for saying he knew little about the Iran arms sale.
So when that monumental mistake was being made, I think it is fair to ask, where was George?
Bush declined to answer Kennedy.
That's the beautiful thing about the forest, the actual wilderness. You don't have to listen to Ted Kennedy. It is wonderful.
But presidential spokesman Marlin Fitzwater fired back, saying George was cutting taxes, not raising them. George was defending America, not tearing it down. George was leading a drug interdiction, not blowing smoke. And Bush was philosophical about the attacks.
To me, I expect that. I got broad shoulders. They're going to get in line to say ugly stuff.
Tom, the Republicans have launched a counteroffensive. A so-called Republican Truth Squad is in town, and today Illinois Governor James Thompson tried to link Michael Dukakis with the more liberal Jesse Jackson. He said the Democrats are now being run by a troika: Mike Dukakis, Lloyd Bentsen, and Jesse Jackson. Tom?
Thank you very much, John Dancy. And of course, the Democrats also are having some fun with their own nominee. The political satirist Mark Russell got a big laugh here when he referred to Dukakis' reputation as a kind of boring guy and his Greek ancestry. Russell called him Zorba the Clerk. Back in a moment.